everybody. I am Josh. Welcome to my channel. I'm gonna be mostly, or just entirely talking about math on this channel. For anyone who needs help, I'll give brief tutorials for stuff. If you need a more in-depth tutorial, you can always let me know in the comments or just talk to your math teacher. But yeah, for this first video, figured I'd talk about logs. So Uh, for those of you who don't know, if you're learning about this in your math class right now, or you haven't, but you're just interested in it. So a log looks like this, right? And then you'll have a base, which can be any number. I'm gonna put a 2. Oops, I'm gonna put a 2. And then you have the argument, which is up here. And for that, I'm gonna put a 4. Okay. And then you can just have it like this. But some people like to visualize it more, so I'm going to put an equals x. But even if you just had this, it would still have an invisible equals x. So, yeah, if you ever see just this, just know, it still means the same as this. So, pretty much what this means, it's kind of like a exponent, but different. So we can actually rearrange this, and you don't need a calculator for this. You can just do this really easy. So pretty much the base to the power of whatever is here is this. So it's what's in the argument. And this, remember, this is called the argument. This is called the base. Okay. So we have what's called the circle of logs. You can look this up. It's a thing. So if we write this out in exponential form, it just looks like 2 to the power of x equals 4. And some of you already are like, oh, that's really obvious. X is just 2. And some of you might be thinking, oh, well, how did you get there? Because you might be more of a visual person. So right now, we're just going to ignore this x. And we're wondering, 2 to the power of what makes 4? How do we get 4? So equals 4. Okay. So for this to be correct, this question mark here would have to be a 2, because 2 squared equals 4, right? And since we have this here, we can plug in 2 squared for 4. So we have 2 to the power of x equals 2 squared. And remember, 4 and 2 squared are the same. So since the base for the exponent is the same, remember, base, also base. So since the bases are both the same, then it means that these are the same. So x equals 2, right? So that makes sense. 2 squared equals 4. And we can plug this in to a calculator. I don't have a calculator app on here. Well, I do, but I'm not displaying it. I'm using a different calculator. If you want to check this yourself with your own calculator, you can. And if you see a log button, by the way, on your calculator, this button is not the same as this button on your calculator. This just means log base 10. This is log base whatever you want to be. So you'd plug in a number for x. So log base 2, I'm checking on my calculator right now, log base 2 of 4, that's how you say it, equals 2. So we were right. And okay, so this is one of the forms that you can put this in. So now let's rearrange it. So, or actually let's try another example. So log base 3 of 27 equals x. Okay, I know this looks like a 1, but you gotta believe me, it's a 2. So you guys can pause real quick if you want. Figure it out on your own, but I'm gonna keep going now. So when we rearrange this, use the circle of logs, we get 3 to the power of x equals 27. Once again, some of you guys might be like, oh, I know what that is. 3 to the power of 3 is 27. 3 cubed, right? And some of you guys might be like, well, how the heck did you get there, right? So, once again, 3 to the power of what equals 27? Well, 27 is 3 cubed, so we plug in 3 cubed for 27 up here. Sorry, that's a bad arrow, but you get the idea, right? And so 3 to the power of x equals 3 to the power of 3, right? And since the bases are the same, that means that these are the same. So x equals 3, and that's our answer. So log base 3 of 27 equals 3. And that's your answer. And you can plug that into a calculator right now. I guarantee you it will be correct. In fact, let me do it right now. Yep, it's 3. Yeah. So now we'll rewrite it in a little bit of a different way. So let's do, okay. So log base x of 4 equals 2. Okay. So if we rearrange this, once again, because it's the same, it's just the x is in a different place, we get x squared equals 4. Now, some of you guys might immediately just be thinking, I know, it's just 2, and you're only half right about that, right? So what this really means is something to the power of 2 equals 4, and you might be thinking, wow, I already knew that you're stupid, but that's, you gotta rearrange it more, right? So how can we get rid of this squared? Well, some of you smart people might know that you just square root it. So, but instead of square root, we're gonna write it as to the power of 1 over 2. So we take this and do it to the power of 1/2 on both sides, which is the same as square rooting, right? So x equals 4 to the power of 1 over 2. But what happens when you take away an exponent from both sides is, so it only becomes absolute value if it's to the power of an even exponent, right? And it's only like this if it's going from a number greater than 1 to a number less than 1. So a fraction, that is. So if it's only like that if the exponent is a fraction. Right. So if if it was x to the power of 1/2 equals 4, then you'd rearrange that to x equals 4 squared. This would not be absolute value. It's only if it's a fraction. So the absolute value of x equals, we go back to here, right? Absolute value of x equals 4 to the power of 1 over 2. So this can be simplified to x equals plus or minus 2. So which is the same as saying x equals plus 2, comma, minus 2. Okay, so it might seem like the answer, right? Wrong. It's actually just x equals plus 2. See, the thing about logs is, if you have a negative in either the base or in the argument, then it's called an extraneous solution. So you'd cross out the -2 and write EXT. which stands for extraneous, and then you could make a little arrow pointing at that. So this would be your answer. Okay? And the reason, by the way, that it would be extraneous is because imagine you have log base -2 of 4 equals x. Nothing can make this a 4. Nothing can make this a 4. You might be thinking, oh, -2. What that really means, what a negative in the exponent means, is that it's actually 1 over this to whatever it is. So if it's -2 to the power of -2, it would just be -4. It would be 1 over -4 because 2 squared equals 4, and then you have the negative, then you have the negative here, so it's 1 over -4. So that's why. And the same applies for if the x, or for if the negative was in here. It's the same thing. So that's why you can't have a negative. All right. So and then the last way that this could go is if you have an x in the argument. So log 2, or log base 2 of x equals 2. So rearrange this circle of logs. 2 squared equals x. Oopsie, that's 4. 2 squared equals x. And this is just really simple. It's obvious. It's just 4 because 4 equals 2 squared. So 4 equals x. Simple. But there's still one little tiny more like detail that you gotta know. Okay. So if you have a 1 in the argument, then the answer must equal 0. And here's why. So if you have log base 2 of 1 equals x, it means 2 to the power of x equals 1. And at first this must seem kind of weird, but once you remember that anything to the power of 0 equals 1, it's simple. So x must equal 0, right? But that applies for every single number. As long as there's a 1 in the argument, your solution is 0. And a good way to remember that is what my math teacher told me. If you have an argument with your friend and you won, you get nothing out of it because then your friend is just mad at you. So if you won the argument, you get nothing out of it. It's a funny little thing. So, also, one very last detail. If let's say you have a 2 log base 2 of 2 equals x. So what this means is that this 2 is actually the same as having whatever's in the argument squared. And this applies for any number that's out here. So if it was a 3, it'd be this 2 to the power of 3. If it was 4, 2 to the power of 4, so on and so forth. So what this really means is just log base 2 of 4, because it's 2 squared, right, equals x, right? So 2 to the power of x equals 4. And once again, we did this earlier. 2 squared equals 4. That means x must equal 2. And that is our answer. So we're going to do one more practice problem based on what we now know. I'll give you time to pause the video and yeah. This will be, and then I'll solve it. This will be kind of a harder one, but I mean, with what you know, you should be able to do it. So 3 log base 18x, and this x is in the base, of 81 equals 6. And I'll give you a hint for this. it will have an extraneous solution. Okay? So I'll give you time to pause and do it if you want. And yeah, okay. I'm going to do the question in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this might seem like a pretty scary thing, but if you remember your simple algebra stuff, it's actually pretty simple. So at first you might be inclined to do 3 to the power of 81, which you could do, but let's be honest, nobody wants to do that. It's terrible. It's a lot of math. Your teacher didn't let you use a calculator, and now you're kind of worried. But luckily for you, algebra exists. So just take the 3, just divide it by 3 on both sides, right? So then you get log base 18 of x, or sorry, log base 18x of 81 equals 2, because that's 6 over 3, right? So then you can just rearrange this using circle of logs. So 18x, now it's important to put this in parentheses, square, so that just so you don't remember, like, or just so you remember what is like squared and stuff. So 18x squared equals 81. And, you know, you're a smart kid. Sure, you can figure out what happens from here. So 18x equals plus or minus 9. And the reason it's plus or minus is because you had 81 to the power of 1 over 2. And remember, if it's even and it's a fraction and it's like, you know, to the power of, then you have to do plus or minus, because remember I showed you that earlier. So now with your 18x equals plus or minus 9, you just divide by 18, right? So what this really looks like is 18x equals, 18x equals 9 comma negative 9. Oops, yeah. So when you divide by 18 on both sides, you get x equals plus or minus 1 over 2. And now you might be thinking, great, we're done. This is our answer. Wrong. So, once again, you got your x equals 1/2, comma, negative 1/2, right? And remember, you can never have a negative number in the base or in the argument, okay? And if you have this negative, well, sorry, 18 times negative 1/2 is negative 9. So, what happens then is you write e x t. You have a little arrow. You cross out the negative 1/2. This is your answer, and boom. So that was, you know, my first little tutorial. If you need any clarification at all, I can make another video about it. Just let me know in the comments. If you want me to go more into depth, because there is a lot more you can do, like if you add logs and stuff and subtract logs. But hopefully your math teacher will go over that. So yeah, hopefully this tutorial helped you. If it did, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know if there's any other math concepts you would like me to go over. I don't know calculus yet, just a disclaimer. I would be willing to do a little bit of research, but I will not be learning like integrals and stuff for that. So yeah, just a disclaimer. That'll have to wait for next year. But yeah, that's all. Goodbye.